Maxime Raynaud did everything for a relatively bad Stanford team this season, but his raw numbers are excellent. Advanced numbers pretty good as well. Good enough for him to check at number 33 on our big board, on the Sleepers Media Consensus big board. Riley, checking in, you had him at number 27 on your big board, had him as first round pick. Greg at 24, Cart at 28, also had him going in the first round. Dion had him at 35. I was easily the low man on Renault. I had him at 47 on my big board. We'll get into that in a little bit. But again, guy was a double machine this past season at Stanford. What are some of his biggest strengths? What are some of the things NBA teams are looking at to why he's a borderline first round pick?
I mean, the production is unmatched, particularly like best big man in the ACC by far. Fantastic rebounder, could do everything on the court from handling, knock down threes. Really, really good passer. Like he's
Yeah.
awesome passing out of doubles, can make plays on the short roll. He does every skilled thing that you want a modern big to do. And on top of that, he's very fluid. Like he doesn't move like someone who's a 7 footer. When you watch him defensively, he can get into a stance, doesn't look awkward at all. And I would say has some good instincts on that end of the court as well.
Yeah, he is somebody who did well on the glass, shot the three really well for somebody who's 7'1", right? And that
Hmm.
wasn't just like a random forced thing. It was
Hmm.
natural. Got a high basketball IQ, really good secondary playmaker. Stanford did not have many other guys who could make plays too, which is part of the problem. But good there. Not like a somebody you think of as a rim protector or a shot blocker,
Hmm.
but held his own in that regard the way you would expect a 7'1" guy to do. So I those are the strengths for me. What about weaknesses? What are some reasons why he may not go in the first round despite being a 2010 guy in the ACC?
Yeah, he's not always the best at dealing with physicality. I think about the game they played against Duke where he was on fire in the first half and Duke got real physical with him in the second half and kind of took him out of the game. Sometimes I think he floats too much around the perimeter and settles for threes and just doesn't play like he's a, like that he is the on one hand it's like he's super fluid, way more fluid than you expect for a 7 footer, but then sometimes he doesn't really play like a 7 footer. Like I think about this game they had against Cal that I was watching and sort of in prep for this. He attacked Mady Sissoko off the bounce, kind of got walled off and forced a little floater over him that rimmed out. And even mentioning Mady Sissoko, I would say he was really impactful defensively this past year, but I don't know if that was just because the ACC was so bad. Like it's probably
Yeah.
not that hard to look good against the Mady Sissokos and the Maligio Poteets of the world. So those would be my question marks with him.
My question marks, and this plays into why I had him at 47 on my big board, is some of the physicality questions and being able to handle that, and also just level of play that he faced. We'll get into the physicality stuff here. You mentioned that game against Cal and kind of dealing with Manny Sissoko. He had 3 rebounds in that game, right against Cal. The teams that he played in the AC that had size, right? Maybe not necessarily good size, but just size that could challenge him. Mentioned Duke, great size. Shot 9 threes against them, which is more than you want your center to take. Shot 12 against North Carolina, who did not have a good front line, but had size. 12 against them. 6 against Oregon. 7 against Louisville. Again, not huge guys, but size. 7 against Wake Forest. 10 against Eddie Lampkin and Syracuse. Like you go down the list, the games where he had the higher 3-point attempt totals were against teams that had size to at least body him down low.
Mhm.
That's a bit of a concern to me. The other one, mentioned how down the ACC was this year, and Sanford did not have a really good non-conference schedule. There is a little bit of inflated numbers here in games against the top 2 quadrants. Just go college basketball terms here. Essentially, tournament teams and bubble teams. Think of that as quad one, quad two. Tournament teams, bubble teams. His game score rating, his average game score, was over 3 points worse than against quad three and quad four. It was the majority of Stanford's games. Dropped from just over 17 to just below 14. His shooting percentage against the top 2 quadrants, just over 45%. As a 7 footer, like 45% from the field isn't great. And if you're going to be shooting threes, shooting 32% against the top 2 quadrants
Mhm.
isn't enough to be considered like, yeah, we're comfortable with you shooting NBA threes at this level. I think there's some of that there, but you have to compare that too with the guy who averaged 20 and 10 and was the lone guy on the scouting report and does all these things well, which is why I think he's one of the more intriguing draft guys to me because you'll get people who are super high on him, like our friend Jamie Shaw from On Three, loves him. I see why he loves him. I also, obviously, have reasons why I'm a little bit more skeptical. And I know NBA front offices feel the exact same way, and there's a similar split amongst them. I think right now it's going to be very interesting to see where he ends up on draft night. We have 7 categories we're going to go through. We're going through these for all 79 or all 80 of our top prospects on the Sleepers Media Consensus Big Board. So there's 79 other videos like this you need to go check out and watch. The first one, though, is we're going to give one word to describe his game. Riley, you'll give your word. I will give mine, and then we will discuss. So, what is your word for Maxime Raynaud?
S- Suestime.
That didn't sound English.
It's French for underappreciated.
I went with question.
Do you want to explain yours first?
I think I just did. I
Fair.
don't know. Like, there is the raw numbers, and there is like you can pick some things out that weren't necessarily great. Also, his first 2 years at Stanford was a non-factor.
Yeah, he was really bad.
His junior season, he was solid, and last year he was good.
Borderline
So,
great, but yeah.
right. So is that like just a matter of you're playing in the ACC now and
Yeah.
you're a senior, or is it you developed your game? And I think there are some, again, ways you could point either direction in that, which is why I have a question as to what to expect from him as a prospect.
Those are fair questions for sure. With underappreciated, Ralph, you just need to remember like this dude was putting up these numbers with Jalen Blakes as his point guard, with Ryan Agarwal on the wing, with Donovan Young in the backcourt. Like this supporting cast was terrible. I get Isaiah Sellers was good. I conveniently left him off, but yeah, he even with like my concerns with his shot selection or floating too much or whatever, I'm like this dude had to do everything for this Stanford team to even be competitive. And I get his team was always bad, but they like weren't as bad this past year.
Jalen Blakes, did he do anything important this year?
No, we can move on.
Anything notable?
Actually, you know what? Let me scream it from the rooftops so the powers that be at Carolina don't forget. Jalen Blake's hit a game winner against UNC at our own crib.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I did it. Let's move on.
Do you think right now is more likely to hit his floor or his ceiling in the NBA? I went with floor.
Ralph, I'm about to start contradicting myself because I also said floor and I love Maxime Raynaud. I thought I was a Maxime Raynaud guy. I might have just been a Maxime Raynaud college guy. I think he'll be fine in the NBA, but like those question marks you rose were a lot of what I was like thinking through as I was watching his tape. And even though I'm like going to bat for him as underappreciated, playing on a terrible team and doing everything for them, I think there are enough question marks to say like it's probably more likely hits his floor.
I think part of that too, and this is some of the question when you go through ceiling or floor. Like if it works, there's a 7-1 guy who can shoot threes and pass and get you double doubles consistently. Like that's a damn high ceiling, and I think that's on the table for right now.
Hmm.
The other side is that he's a weak ACC merchant who was just older than everybody in a bad league.
Yeah. Two sides of the coin.
Two sides of the coin. I'm more likely to go floor as well. But what team would be best for him? He's projected to go late first round, early second, so pretty wide range of outcomes. It's a perfect opportunity too for a team to like trade in and get
Hmm.
him. So where do you think would be the best place for him to end up in the NBA?
So I would love for the Celtics to take a swing on him at the end of the first round. I mean, Al Horford's not getting any younger. Porzingis is injury prone. Like he gives him that stretch big archetype, and maybe in time he could beat out Luke Cornett for minutes. But even looking at what Luke Cornett did in some playoff games this year, I think point positively toward the Celtics development. Not that there were people who had doubts about it anyway, but yeah, I think getting into that system would be great for him.
Yeah, and also Celtics gonna have to like pay some of these guys, and
Hmm.
someone's probably gonna pay Luke Cornett, especially with what he did in the playoffs with increased playing time. I went with a similar thought. I went with the 76ers, who are picking very early on in the second round. Obviously, Joel Embiid is their star center, who does a little bit of everything, right? Can score, can shoot threes. Raynaud is not that, but is he an upgrade as your backup over a Dembona?
Hmm.
Maybe. Like to certainly see that. And if you're Philly, you don't have to change the way you play really, because Raynaud again can do a little bit of everything. So if he's going to end up somewhere that he can be successful, that's some place that one I think needs depth and already plays a style that kind of fits what he does. So if he ends up falling in the second round, I think him ending up in Philadelphia with the 76ers would be the best chance for him to succeed.
Hmm.
Now, speaking of succeeding, for projecting him out in 5 years, we had options on where we could project he ends up in 5 years. Is he an All NBA guy, one of the best players in the league, an All Star, starting somewhere in the NBA, a bench guy? Is he relegated to the G League? Is he playing overseas, whether that's in Europe or Australia or somewhere else? Or is he just retired from basketball and hosting a podcast?
I think he'll be a bench big.
There is some nuance in mine. I have him overseas.
Going back home to France.
This plays into kind of the next thing, but he is somebody who I think could be a minimum contract guy in 5 years or playing like significantly overseas, and I think he takes overseas.
Makes sense. I could see that.
Why do you have him as bench, right?
Yeah, I just think like I buy the offensive skill set, like, and he's competent enough defensively. Like the fluidity, the ability to slide his feet makes me think there's still something that could be unlocked there to where he wouldn't be a complete liability on that end. To where if he gets into the right system with a good team that can develop him, I think he'll stick. I just see him more as a probably like a third big in the rotation or something.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean that's a very likely scenario for him, certainly. Now let's get to our superlatives again. We're handing all top 80 of our prospects a yearbook like superlative as part of this rookie class. So Maxime Raynaud is most likely to what from this draft class?
Wear number 37 or an equally hideous basketball number.
It's very Euro of him.
It is. The Euro dudes don't care about that. They throw all those ugly numbers on there. And if he goes to the Celtics, like half their numbers are retired anyway.
That's a good point. This plays into me saying he'll be overseas. Is I think he's most likely to be a Euro League legend.
Could see that as well.
Where you see this with a couple of guys who are from Europe who come over and play and opt for a bigger role, perhaps more money overseas than to be like somebody who doesn't play in the rotation or back end rotation guy in the NBA. I think Reno could be one of those guys. Not that he would be like contributing in a significant way in the NBA, but I see him potentially like maxing out as like an eighth or ninth man in the NBA rotation and being like, okay, or I can go be somebody this team in Paris is built around, and
Hmm.
we're gonna go do that, and just you know win a couple EuroLeague titles, win an MVP or two, and be a legend in Europe.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. Now that may not pair with my best case comp. Instead of doing traditional player comps, we're going through best case comp and worst case comp. So best case scenario, the 0.001% best case works out. What does that look like? And if it's flipped, 0.001% worst case scenario plays out.
Why
What
don't
does
you
that?
say your well, yeah, why don't you say your best case first? You told me off air and I've been
Yeah,
laughing.
so my best case, if everything works out for Maxime Raynaud, is Carl Anthony Towns.
I just love that you have a potential Carl Anthony Towns 47th on your big board and you're saying he's going to be your Euro League MVP.
Don't ask what's in my cup.
I said Yusuf Nurkic. I'm aiming more realistically for Rayno. I think if you like Nurkic had that same playmaking ability, could step out and hit the occasional three, good rebounder, super productive, like in that department as well. I would say the only difference is like Rayno needs to get more physical, basically.
Yeah, you could say the same thing about Carl Anthony Towns,
That's fair.
honestly. But Towns, once he got to the league and spent a couple years developing, became an elite shooter,
Hmm.
became somebody who still works the glass really well. Negative defender, has been played off the court in the Eastern Conference Finals at times. Like I think Reno, best case scenario, given what we talked about the amount of threes he likes to shoot, starts hitting him at a high rate, and is Carl Anthony Towns.
You
To be
make a
fair, to
compelling
be fair,
case, Ralph. I'm just
Karl
like
Anthony Towns would be a EuroLeague MVP.
he would be. I just think so, like I mean, Towns' defense has been so bad this postseason that it's like hard to justify. But I thought he was like a pretty good defender on the Wolves last year. But maybe it's just because he had better defenders around him that could like cover up some of his mistakes. And still, I'm like, Karl Anthony Towns has been averaging like 24 or more points in the league for like 10 straight years. I just can't see Raynaud doing
I don't
that.
know if Reno's going to do that, but he could touch a couple 24 if everything breaks right. Right. Now, worst case scenario. What is your worst case scenario?
uh Sandro Mamukelashvili. And I went with Mamu just thinking of like the point forward types. Also was ridiculously productive his last year at Seton Hall and kind of I don't like didn't completely come out of nowhere, but definitely had like a huge production bump his last year there. And has just been like a what is he like a 4 or 5 point per game guy for the Spurs right now off the bench. And I think Reyno's again all of those the like the fluidity, the production, the rebounding, like all of that should give him a high-ish floor. But I think there's a chance that he just like never really becomes more than a replacement level bench big.
That hurts my heart, man. I love Mamu's game.
Mamu was so good. I was
He
such a believer in him for someone who would like become an impact player.
That year after Miles Powell left, where he became the guy, he was awesome. He can do so many different things. He just hasn't been given a fair chance. That's what I'm going to
Listen,
go with. He's been in the league 5 years, hasn't been given a fair chance. We'll rock with that. Um, I went with Steven Zimmerman.
this is such a wild, this is such a wild variance of Carl Anthony Towns to Steven Zimmerman.
This is best case and
Although
worst case, but Steven Zimmerman, there was a stretch from 2009 to about 2014, 2015, where every big man who could shoot and pass was comped to Chris Bosh. And Steven Zimmerman was like the first of those.
I was a big Zimmerman believer as well. You could say some of it is like era because if I remember correctly, like most of Zimmerman's like passing touches were like passing out of the high post or the low post.
Yep.
But if he was playing in today's era, coming up on like the like at the grassroots level and everything, they probably have him making plays off the short roll or out of dribble handoffs a lot more. So
That
yeah,
was that was to sell. He could step out, he could hit an occasional three, have good mid range, good feel for the game. Very, very Raynaud-esque. Now he was a freshman, he was a one and done. And Raynaud is 4 years in, had a full college career. But was out of the league pretty quickly. And if Raynaud's gonna be a EuroLeague MVP, he's gotta be out of the league pretty quickly too.
I love the variance, Ralph. I really do.
Hey, best worst case scenario, right? We're not talking most likely. Most likely is probably something boring, like I don't know who's a
A boring skilled big,
yeah.
Luke Cornett.
There you go. But that's not as fun as
We've had way too much
Adder
Luke. We've had
Steven
way too much
Zimmerman.
Luke Cornett dialogue on this video.
We really have. Make sure you check out. We got 79 more of these videos on the channel breaking down our top 80 draft prospects. Make sure you like and subscribe.